We are doing US 421. This will be published tomorrow. This is from North Carolina, from Michigan City, Indiana, on US 20. This is from Fort Fisher, North Carolina, I-95 for Dunn, North Carolina, I-85 for Greensboro with I-40, and Winston-Salem, I-77 for Yankinville, Bristol for Virginia, I-75 for Lexington, Kentucky, I-69, I-74, Interstate 465, US 36, US 40, and US 52, and US 31, part of Indianapolis, with I-70. Otis, Indiana is I-80 and 90. Michigan City is Interstate 94. And US 20. It'll end. This is the beginning of US 421. So we're in Fort Fisher, North Carolina. In Carolina Beach, we're about to be in this state, and it says Island Burgers. I need to try that place in Wilmington. That's in Carolina Beach. I'm about to go there. Here's US 117 in this area. Well, we are joining US 17 and US 76. We are splitting off with US 17. It says to Brunswick County Beaches and Lumberton. We're joining US 74 for Battleship, North Carolina, and Clinton with US 421. It says to Interstate 40. We're splitting off with US 74. It is going to Wilmington, like US 76 and 17. So it says to Interstate 140 and to Interstate 40. Here's Interstate 140. Oh, it says Myrtle Beach. Okay. Here's US 701 in this area. US 701 is splitting off with US 421. We're signed for Dunn. Here's US 13 for Goldsboro and Fayetteville. That is a great choice. Interstate 95 will take you in to Benson. Oh no. And it's going to Fayetteville. That is a alright choice, but why not Richmond? In this area, you can see US 301 for Benson and Fayetteville. So US 301 is part of North Carolina. And we're about to join US 401. Because we're turning left with US 401. We're in the Cape Fear River. We are splitting off with US 401, so US 421 is turning right. Here's US 1 signed for Raleigh. And what is this? US 15, okay. Why'd you erase all of this? US 65 is signed for Pittsburgh and Siller City. Interstate 85 is signed for Charlotte and Durham, and we're signed for Winston-Salem. That is a great choice, because it's signed for Interstate 40. On Interstate 85 South, so it says Interstate 73 for Martinsville and Charlotte. So we're signed for Winston-Salem. Greensboro and Asheboro for Interstate 73 South. And it says for northbound Charlotte. No, it doesn't. It says Martinsville. So US 421 will head into Winston-Salem. 85 South will go to Charlotte. There's US 70. So we're on US 4. So Interstate 40 for Greensboro. And we're about to get on Winston-Salem with I-40 westbound. And we're about to get on I-40 for Winston-Salem. And it says Martinsville for I-73. Interstate 840 East. And it says 40 East for Greensboro. I-40 is splitting off, and we're signed for Kernersville for US 421. And why does it say Interstate 40 gets signs for Statesville? Why not Asheville? So we're signed for Kernersville for US 421, but I-40 gets Statesville. Why are you doing this, NC DOT? And why is this errored? Why does it say North Carolina 74? This should have been Interstate 74. It's signed for Wytheville. Okay, I don't know why we're getting Wytheville. US 158 is joining us. US 52 is signed for Mount Airy and Lexington. Why are you copying Lexington, Kentucky, North Carolina? NC Dot. Why are you copying KY Dot? For no reason. We are signed for Yadkinville. I-40's for Greensville. Oh, nope, it's Greensboro. And why Statesville on the list? This should have been Asheville, North Carolina. NC Dot. Sign Asheville. And we're signed for Yankinville for US 421. Here's US 601 for Mocksville and Yankinville. US 21 is signed for Statesville. That is a correct choice. Why Jonesville? I would like to see Sparta, North Carolina. Okay, we're signed for Elkin. I'd rather see Wytheville or Charleston, West Virginia. NC Dot. Sign Charleston, West Virginia and Wytheville. Get rid of Statesville. And what? Okay, Charlotte is a great choice. That is a great choice for Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you, NC Dot. We're meeting US 221 for West Jefferson, but I'd rather see Independence, Virginia. So we're about to go into Boone. US 221 is splitting off, so it's time for Blowing Rock. So US 421 is continuing to meet US 321. Here's US 321, so 321 is now congruent with us. US 321 is splitting off and it's heading to Johnson City, so US 421 will head into Bristol. And welcome to Tennessee in Johnson County. So we're about to head into Bristol. We are crossing the Holston River. We are joining US 11E, US 19, and US 421 because we're about to head into Virginia. And welcome to Virginia because we got from Bristol, Virginia and Bristol, Tennessee. As we leave US 11 and US 19, they will just head into Bluefield and Hansonville. So we're on US 58 for Gate City. Interstate 81 is signed for Roanoke and Knoxville, Tennessee. We are joining US 23, so we're about to be congruent with US 23. I'll do my US 23 video until September of 2026. There's US 23. So we're now going to be congruent with US 23 for Gate City. And then we're splitting off with US 23. So US 58 and US 421 are turning left. So US 23 will head into Pikeville, Kentucky and Jenkins, Kentucky. Norton, I don't know about that. That's the last town in Virginia. So we're about to head into Pennington Gap. Why? And now we're going to get Jonesville and Cumberland Gap. What are you doing, V-Dot? And we're signed for Pennington Gap for US 421 for 17 miles. Okay, V-Dot, why are you doing this? And then Jonesville for US 58 and Cumberland Gap. So 21 miles for Jonesville. Really? Why are you doing this, V-Dot? And now we're getting Cumberland Gap. Why not Middlesboro? Oh, please, sign Middlesboro. V-Dot, you're not doing this the correct way. We are splitting off with US 58 and we're signed for Pennington Gap. Again, this should have been Baxter or Harlan, Kentucky or Manchester, Kentucky. Put it like Lexington. And put this as Middlesboro instead of Jonesville and Cumberland Gap. And welcome to Kentucky. We are meeting US 119 for Pineville, and we're signed for Cumberland. I don't know about that. We are splitting off with US 119, so US 421 will turn left. In Manchester, Kentucky, so we're about to go into Richmond, Kentucky. That is a correct choice. We're meeting US 25, so we're about to be congruent with US 25 for Lexington. Skipping the rest of Kentucky River, and we're signed for Clay's Ferry. Why are you signing the bridge? Put Lexington. We are splitting off with US 25, so US 421 will head into Frankfort. We are joining US 62, so US 421 and US 62 are now congruent. US 62 is splitting off, so US 421 will head into Frankfort. There is no there is no connection for Interstate 64. We are meeting US 60. US 60 is now going to be congruent with us. US 60 is splitting off, so it says US 460 for Georgetown, and then US 421 is signed for nothing. What? US 127 is joining us. It's signed for Owenton and Frankfort. And we're about to split off on US 127. Here's Interstate 71 for Louisville and Cincinnati. We are joining US 42. And we're splitting off with US 42, so US 421 will head to Indiana or to Indianapolis. Hey, guess what? This is my favorite. It's the middle of nowhere in Kentucky game. Ha 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 ha. Now we're going to play that game again. Way to go. KY Dot. You're just going to play the middle of nowhere in Kentucky game. And we're about to enter to Indiana. We're meeting US 50. This is going to be part 1 for US 50 when I'm going to do that highway. So US 50 is from Maryland, and I'll do part 1 from Cincinnati. Maryland to Cincinnati. US 421 is splitting off with US 50. We are joining Interstate 74 for Indianapolis, and it's time for Cincinnati. And we're going to Peoria, Fort Wayne, Evansville. So we're about to join US 31, US 36, US 40, and US 52 in Indianapolis. And US 52 is joining us. US 40 is also joining us. Here's Interstate 70 for Dayton and Indianapolis. And US 36 is joining us. And now Interstate 69 is splitting off for Fort Wayne. And now US 31 is splitting off for Westfield and Kokomo. I'd rather see South Bend. And now we're going to split off on Interstate 465. So we're about to head on to Monticello or something. US 24 is joining us for Reynolds, and we're in Monticello. And we're back in the middle of nowhere again in Indiana. This is so funny. Why are we doing this? Indiana, why? Why are we doing the middle of nowhere game? This is so hilarious. We're splitting off with US 24, so US 421 will turn right to Michigan City. Here's US 30. US 30 will go to Fort Wayne and Warsaw. And US 6 is joining us. The great US 6. US 6 is now splitting off, so US 421 will turn straight. We're meeting Interstate 80 and 90 for Toledo and Cleveland and Chicago. Interstate 94 East is signed for Detroit, and westbound gets signed for Chicago. And US 421 ends on US 20. So that is it for US 421. Remember, this will be published tomorrow. Friday we'll do US 441. So, goodbye.